Good morning. It's January 21st. It's 9 a.m. I call the meeting to order. We'll stand for a moment of silence for the Border Patrol agent that was killed in Vermont in the line of duty and of the LA wildfires. And then a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll call for removal of the proposed agenda. Is there any changes or anything that you've heard of, Bruce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Commission, no.
I'll move the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Open forum. Keisha, do we have any signed up for open forum?
We have nobody signed up, Board Chair.
And the consent agenda. We'll move forward to that. Are there any additions or changes to the consent agenda?
Staff has not received any, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Hulls, second by Commissioner Felber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Commission, appreciate the couple minutes here. Just quick, we'll start with correspondence for you. I put in your packet a couple of things that we received. One is an interesting article about artificial intelligence and the impact on government. Wanted you to be aware of that. Also, just note on that topic that President Trump has signed an executive order rescinding a previous executive order on cautions on AI. So I think it's a moving target. I'm glad that NACO and AMC is taking a look at it. I know you're tracking it as well, and we are for you, but just know that's a moving target already. So interesting reading. If you want to see the entire article, this is just the executive summary. Let me know. I'll make sure that you have it. Second is a letter we received from Excel. Of course, a lot of moving parts with Excel, and I think we do have scheduled a workshop here coming up to talk about base power with utilities that you requested. But Excel in particular has made some headlines recently, and I just wanted you to be aware of them. First was a proposed rate increase for electricity. They're looking at 13.2% over the next 2 years, including a 6% next year. So very, very significant rate increases, and as a customer, we're of course going to be paying some of those bills. Second of all, on Excel, if you didn't see, there was an article about the land sale for the big data center. We received a call from the Star Tribune, gave them our response. We are not a party to those land sales, just so you're aware, but obviously track them very closely, and Dan and Brian do a really good job for us on that. So we do have calls. We try to have calls twice a month with Excel right before board meetings to keep you updated. We didn't have one yesterday, obviously, but we'll keep track of that as well. Third, if you want to just do a calendar call reminder, just some logistics. First of all, a note that Commissioner Schumacher and I will be down in St. Paul here the next couple of days for a new commissioner orientation. And then I believe Chair and Vice Chair are going to be participating in phase 2 of 3 phases for a leadership orientation for chairs and vice chairs. So we might have a chance to get together if you're both coming down to St. Paul. The three of us can connect and have some time down there with our AMC colleagues. On that note, also just a note, please let us know your interest in attending the AMC Legislative Conference. That occurs the 26th and 27th of February. It's usually a pretty interesting time. It's at the Intercontinental Hotel. If you're staying overnight, let Keisha know. We'll work on travel arrangements with you as well. Related to that, early March, late February is the trip to DC. Again, we need to know probably pretty quick if your travel arrangements and plans are going, so I can let our federal lobbyists know and they can start working on visits for you that go around that. Predicated upon that, of course, is the need to change the calendar, which you saw in the board packet, so that we'll have the board meeting on that Thursday, not that Tuesday. So just a reminder for everybody, and we'll make that change as well. And then a final note, Transportation Day at the Capitol. This is the one that's coming up here, sponsored by the Transportation Alliance. I would just note, Andrew won't be there, but Dave's going to go down with you to the Transportation Day. with that entity which we're a part of. But I would also note it's probably one of, usually they do 2 or 3 a year, I think. And this is an early one, and given the what's going on at the state capitol, not sure how productive it will be, but again, it's a transportation focus. It's quite an interesting event and activity. So again, if you would let Keisha and I know so we can let Dave know who to expect to see down there for Transportation Day. And then just the last couple other things. On future planning, I would like to schedule a couple of hours with you, and I'm looking at the next board meeting, to really, I'll call kickoff strategic planning. We haven't looked at it, but with a new board, thought it would be good to start this early, a conversation with you, and this is really strategic planning about strategic planning. So it's kind of where we're at, where do you see us going, so we can start moving the bigger pieces. And in particular, Dan and I really want to talk about the financial aspect of that going forward. And it's a very simple, but I'll say a little bit of a selfish reason, which is if the board is going to go in a significant direction in 2026, it's better we know now, because righting the ship to prepare for a significantly different direction in 26, doing that in September, October, and November is very disruptive. Starting that earlier in the year makes more sense. And so I just want to spend a couple hours. We're going to structure some I won't call them exercises, but activities. Keisha's been being trained on strategic planning, so she and I are going to come up with a couple of things. But if you see a request for a 2-hour workshop for the next board meeting, that's what it's about. And if there's any issues, we can truncate it or we can split it into multiple days. But that's the objective, and I hope that you're willing to take a look at that. All right, with that, I'll stand for any questions the board may have.
Bruce, just a question. You're talking about the first meeting in February, the one I will be zooming in on?
I am, but if you want, we can delay till the second meeting if you'd prefer.
If that would be okay with the rest of the board?
We'll forward up a different workshop for that then. So thanks for reminding me.
All right, thank you.
Any other thing for Bruce? We'll move on to the regular agenda. Number 5.1, consider approval to amend the county board meeting schedule. I think all of it have, it's in that packet. All the changes I've made in there, Bruce?
They are, and again, this is just simply to accommodate the National Association of Counties. They've backloaded their agenda this time. Typically, the last day is kind of fluff and stuff. This time it's stuff. And so as a result, if we leave Tuesday for you to finish up at NACO, for those of you who are going, travel either Tuesday night or Wednesday, and then have the board meeting on Thursday. So our recommendation is to just shift that particular meeting by 2 days.
The actual capital day of action is the last day this time. I think they got tired of everybody leaving early, so.
Which I will be doing anyway,
That'd be my guess. Yeah. So,
And,
the way it works.
and by the way, I should share with you, I'll see if I can find it again. Bruce Price was actually out in DC this last weekend and got to attend the Minnesota inauguration party. So he sent a really nice photo of that. So I was saying that because I'm going to lean on Greg to get us some really fun activities since we're out there. So
okay,
with your ties, so we should be able to maybe get a White House tour or something. So
all right.
Any changes? I think the only thing we did mention for a change is if any of the night meetings, we might amend the night meetings if they're not well attended, the first or second one.
Yep, we have 2 scheduled, and so after the first one, if you decide you don't want to, have the second one, we can amend it again. The key with your calendar is simple. Instead of publishing every meeting, which is a 10-day notification, which means 2 weeks, if you have your annual calendar, you publish it once, and then any changes you make, you have to publish again. So we will publish the revised annual calendar now. So it's a little bit, truncated, but we can always do that. So.
Okay. All right, that being said, I need a motion to approve the 2025 County Board meeting agenda. Motion. Commissioner Schumacher, need a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Rayanne Danielowski seconds. Any more discussion?
Yeah, once again, I think we have to do the motion. It's not the agenda, it's the calendar.
Calendar?
Yeah. Right, Keisha?
Thank you for that correction.
Yeah, so friendly,
Meeting calendar or meeting schedule.
With the friendly amendment. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.2, review and discuss the approved 2025 committee assignments.
Normally, this would be on consent since you completed it last meeting, but we did have a requested change that we'll highlight for you. The Community Corrections Advisory Board would have had two individuals from the same family on it, and so the recommendation was that we maybe not have that for the advisory board. So Commissioner Felber has graciously offered to not be seated on that board. That will allow for a switch, and Commissioner Hulls, as I understand, is willing to serve on that board. To keep balance, then he's also indicated perhaps to switch positions with Commissioner Schumacher on the Rum River One Watershed One Plan. So Commissioner Schumacher would be primary, Commissioner Hulls would be secondary, and then Commissioner Hulls would be appointed to the Community Corrections Advisory Board. Commissioner Felber has agreed that instead of serving on the Community Corrections Advisory Board, that he will come and help take care of the fleet vehicles at the government center. And so we have a wash bucket and a siphon, and he's going to be put to work.
Other
So.
duties-
Absolutely.
Other duties as
And
assigned?
a big bucket of chamois. It's gonna be just perfect.
I'll call you the night before I need one. Yeah. Any other discussion, or anybody have a issue with their committee assignments? Make a motion. Commissioner Schumacher moves.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Felber seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have our committee assignments. 5.3, consider approval of the state and federal legislative priorities.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Just a note, normally, this also would be on consent. However, this is a little bit of overcome by events. So I've got two recommendations for you to adjust this, and one is we'll have to do today at the table. But first is Larry Fonder was able to identify that the federal priority that we had listed had actually been taken care of. It was listed under a different name for the act, and so you'll notice that we removed that. And Keisha, if you want to call up the actual one and go to the federal priorities at the end. So it's taken off both the state and the federal, and that was to seek it would have been the Veterans Act, that Omnibus Veterans Act. So that's been removed, but we still have in there the Commitment to Veterans Support Officers Act. So there used to be two, and that one has been accomplished. So we've removed that one from Veteran Services. And then the second change, if we go up, Keisha, to I think it's going to be under assessors. Let's go back down to administration. No, okay, up a couple right there, planning and zoning then. So on number one, it was flagged to me under the support expanding solar power production tax to all facilities and basing production tax on plate rate. AMC staff did note that that may take a little more exploration, and so the recommendation is that we explore basing production tax. The concern is that we don't have any models. We have to get the state models. And some of the industries have indicated, well, is this just on solar, or would the plate rate be on all activity, including nuclear, as well as other power production? And so you can imagine it's going to be a larger conversation when we go statewide with it. So my recommendation is just to put explore basing production tax on the plate rate.
And that would, we would eliminate the phrase specifically to solar. We would just say explore basing tax on plate rate, correct?
Well, the solar power production tax is specific to solar.
Yep.
And then our second is basing that production tax. So that is also specific to solar, but shifting to the plate rate, because it would be new for Minnesota, the industry said, well, is it going to be specific only to solar, which would be very complicated, or is it going to be based on all of our facilities? So I just thought, since we're going to ask AMC to help us, I would just put explore basing it. Now, if you don't want it to be just to solar, then we just say basing all utility taxes on plate rate.
I would recommend that if we're going to rephrase it to explore,
Yeah.
I would say we make it universal.
Okay. So just say.
Just so we're not eliminating some potential areas of investigation.
So then what I would do is recommend saying explore utility taxes on plate rate.
Yep.
Utility production taxes.
Okay. I'm not sure, you want to keep it just to production? I guess the plate rate is production, right? So,
Would be.
okay,
It would be production.
okay,
Yeah.
utility production taxes, got it. Okay. So then we would need a motion to amend the legislative priorities to reflect that, and then a second, and then any discussion.
So moved?
I'll second it.
Moved by Commissioner Felber. Second by Commissioner Felber. Moved by Commissioner Hulls. Did that a little backwards.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Any
it
further
works.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
So then Keisha will be approved as amended, and then I'll give you the amended language. Later.
Item number 5.4, consider appointment of municipal representative, Minnesota Department Region 7W Transportation Board. Bruce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, and your Public Works and County Engineer is here too to answer any questions. So 7W is one of the MnDOT regional planning boards. We have 2 municipal representatives who cannot be from the St. Cloud area that are appointed by this county board as well as a county commissioner to serve on this policy board. One of them currently is the mayor of Elk River. The second one was the mayor of Zimmerman. With the mayor not running, there was a vacancy. We were asked to consider exploring the vacancy. As you can see, I did solicit interest and gave you some notes for you to consider. And so it is requested that the board appoint a second municipal representative to serve on the 7W MnDOT Region Transportation Policy Board. With that, I'll let Andrew maybe talk a little bit about what the policy board does and when it meets. And then we'll note, I just have one other additional note that I'll add after he is done there.
Thank you very much.
Can I first clarify that Steve Voss from MnDOT had sent out an email as well to clarify what was not included in your original letter?
Yeah, I thought we'd do that after Andrew talked about the policy board, but you
Okay.
can do it now if you want. I mean,
Well, I just wanted to put out there the understanding that the policy board representative for the 7W transportation is the selecting a representative from a city over 5,000 population with municipal state aid city designation first. So, Andrew, you can probably speak to the process of the state aid, municipal state aid city designation as well, if you could.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Board members, County Administrator. So as Bruce had mentioned, District 7W is essentially the area between the St. Cloud APO, which consists in Sherburne County of St. Cloud and Haven Township. And then on this other end, the more urbanized areas, actually the federal urbanized boundary of Elk River is included in the Met Council Area Planning Organization. Everything in between there is covered by the Region 7W. As Commissioner Danielowski mentioned, she's very familiar with the TPB, and it is a body that is made up of elected officials and takes recommendations from the TAC, which is individuals like myself, city engineers, county engineers, throughout the region, and makes ultimately decisions. So really it kind of functions as a county board would, but for the Region 7W. It does require them to be a part of a state aid city. State aid city is a city that has made application to the state, is greater than 5,000, and then becomes a part of the state aid system, which then draws from some of the state aid funds that are made available to those cities.
Andrew, for clarification. Can you also, a roadway in a city that would be designated as a state aid road has to be a connection to a state highway. There needs to be that is the means of travel to access that state highway.
Yeah, so Commissioner Danielowski, County Board, I'm not as familiar with the city standards and statutes, but essentially that's similar to the county roads and county state aid highways. It does need to be a road of significance. When a city becomes a state aid city, my understanding is that they are allowed to create 20% of their city street system and put that onto the state aid system for state aid funding.
And having knowledge of that from previous experience with the city, usually your city engineer or your hired firm as an engineer company would come in and look at that. They would look to see where these road systems that would qualify and then draft what it is you're going to call your state aid roads, and then you apply to MnDOT to them to look at it, review it, and approve it, and then become a designated state aid city.
Correct. Correct. So with that, essentially, the role on the TPB is to establish policy for the region, as well as probably their largest role is to distribute the federal and state funds that come through the region. There's an application process. If you've heard me talk about the STBGP grants, the CRP grants, a number of our federal grants do flow through this process and through the region. So some of our larger cities also take advantage of it. Elk River's taken advantage of some of those opportunities to seek funding and solicit for grant dollars through this regional process as well. So it is an important role for Sherburne County and the cities within the county. So with that, I'll turn it over to Administrator Messelt.
Yeah, what I was going to add is just that I haven't been able to ascertain where Baldwin is in their application process. Obviously, it was a big part of their incorporation to become a municipal state aid city, simply to get that funding. As of today, I have not gotten word from MnDOT or whether there's an application in, but as of today, they're not listed as an MSA city, so I might have been premature in soliciting from them, but just know that I think they will be eligible, if not this year, then obviously fairly quickly. So I wanted to add that as well, but I wasn't able to get a definitive answer if they are currently listed as a municipal state aid city.
So let me get this straight. So our three choices are for this appointment would be the City of Princeton, Jenny Reynolds, or Jenny Gerard, Mayor Jay Swanson from Baldwin, and Ken Giroux from Big Lake, correct?
Plus, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
At this
the
time,
asterisk.
that's correct, right? Yeah, and well, Princeton would be Jenny Gerald. Sorry, did I jump on you? That was the asterisk there.
Yeah, and I think that Jack Edmonds, Mayor Jack Edmonds also put his name in the ring for this, but that was down on the bottom. I can't scroll the screen. There you
Oh,
go.
there we are.
He didn't put his name in the ring. I note that he's currently serving on Region 5E, so Princeton could potentially have one on 7W for Sherburne County, one on 5E. So just wanted the board to be aware of that. Yeah, so at this point, if we said that we couldn't determine the eligibility for the city of Baldwin, it would be the city of Princeton, the city of Big Lake, or the city of Baldwin, and then just have it be to be defined, or to be determined if they're eligible. Otherwise, Zimmerman is deferred, and Becker is deferred, and I did not hear back from Clear Lake.
At this time,
Mr. Chair, I can.
Commissioner Felber.
I would think that the majority of our big upcoming projects are going to be situated near Big Lake. So it might be a good time to bring Ken onto this committee and to be working with all the other things we have going with the Highway 25 project and the bridge project and
10 and 11.
10 and 11. Yeah, that's all going to be multiple committees in that zone, so it might be a good idea. That's where I would lean on this deal
Mr. Chair.
for that reason.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Based on that, and I would like to at this time make a motion to appoint Councilmember Ken Giroux to that 7W Transportation Policy Board at this time.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Danielowski and a second by Commissioner Felber to appoint Ken Giroux to the 7W committee. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just, if I go through the list here, representation, Princeton's already represented by the mayor. It's a different region, but they're already represented. And secondly, the population of Princeton that falls in Sherburne County is
Minuscule.
relatively small. I think because of the ambiguity on where Baldwin stands with their application process, I would feel more comfortable moving toward the Big Lake application, and then following along with Commissioner Felber's comments around there are significant projects that are going to take place along the Big Lake area. So I just think it's the logical choice at this point.
Discussion? Commissioner Schumacher?
No,
You're good?
okay, next year.
All right. So we have a motion by Danielowski and a second by Commissioner Felber. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ken Giroux, Big Lake.
I'll send letters out, but I have to tell you, I shared this with Brad last night. It's a nice problem to have when we have more applicants than seats. You know, usually we're grabbing people, so this is great. And yeah, we'll keep this list active because once Baldwin is on MSAS, we should know it for multiple reasons. And I think, Andrew, you're going to track that as well, right? And we'll also verify, Commissioner Danielowski, the road connections, because as Baldwin goes through that MSA system, you know, our maps will probably change a little bit too from township roads to city streets.
Yeah, and I'm sure that whoever that Baldwin would be working with in that regards is, I'm sure, explaining all those requirements and needs, and looking forward to them becoming a municipal state aid
Oh, yeah.
city.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they are too.
It helps.
Agenda item number 5.5, receive, review, and accept the audited treasurers from Lorraine. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, Administrator. So today, I have enclosed, you guys can hear me okay? I'm enclosed the December preliminary trial balance prepared by our accounting manager, Sherlyn Kapsner. Although the total dollars will remain the same, that distribution between the funds will change as we complete our journal entries for the period 3 settlement, which Bonnie is working on right now, and for our year-end audit. So this trial balance does not yet have the year-end property period 3 settlement included in it. Do you want to flip up one? That's the report I'm talking about. So you'll see that Fund 81 has a very large balance compared to our final year end from last year, because that's going to be distributed to towns, cities, the county in our final. So that will be coming to you later as we get that distribution in. Our office is in the process of calculating that, so that should be distributed later this week. It also includes ARPA funds of $2.2 million and the Recorder's Compliance Fund of $542,647. After that is our 3-page investment report prepared by Finance Officer Brenda Davis. Investment earnings are above budget by almost $2.2 million at year end. Interest earnings to date are $3,499,103.64 compared to $2,904,745.51 last year. So we're actually ahead of budget and last year by $594,358.13 from the previous year number. Now for a budget for 2025, we did up our investment earnings. I don't expect that there will be as large of a variance to budget for the coming year, as interest rates have started to drop a little bit, and we'll see what happens in the next month or two. They are talking about freezing and doing a lot fewer federal rate drops this year. So far, they're only talking about 2, where initially they were talking 5. So we're going to try to keep that more on a level keel, and we'll see what the year brings with that. The next This report is just a summary of where our deposits are, where our investments are as total. And if Keisha, if you want to go one more. That's where they're actually physically located. And one more, Keisha. Okay, then this is our executive budget to actual report. And this is also modified accrual, so this will change with our journal entries at year end. Okay? All right, speaking of audit, Clifton Larson Allen will be conducting our 2024 audit per our contract. The CLA audit team actually arrived this morning, so they are starting that 2024 process in our office. Elections, the election staff is working on the setup of the township elections for Becker, Blue Hill, Clear Lake, Livonia, Palmer, and Santiago townships. The township elections will be held March 11th, 2025. We have been notified that we have 2 special elections for April 8th. One is Baldwin City is going to do a Sunday liquor special election. And then Independent School District 742, which is St. Cloud, is going to be a 2-question bonding. That will be coming up on the 8th of April. I've also included for you a breakdown of the costs of the 3 election recounts that were completed in November and December. The total cost to Sherburne County for the recounts was $7,010.42, included estimated election staff time. Baldwin and the District 14B were discretionary recounts. City of Elk River, or I'm sorry, School District, Elk River School District was a one that qualified for being paid for by the jurisdiction. So we did absorb that cost from the school district. It would have fallen on the school district otherwise. So the other thing I'd like to talk to you about is forfeited land. Bonnie Jacobs, our property tax manager, has been working with the county attorney's office to make sure that we're meeting all the new requirements for forfeited land. We have 7 newly forfeited parcels, including a home in Zimmerman that required an eviction. These properties will be available for purchase beginning February 13th through the public surplus online auction services. We're working on getting that listed together now. The list of properties will be posted also on the Sherburne County website, our Facebook page, and a notice will be published in the Elk River Star News starting this past weekend. One of the changes to this process is basically the net proceeds from any forfeited land will go essentially back to the previous owner after our costs. The county can recoup only its direct costs. There is no longer a budget line item for forfeited land proceeds for the general fund, parks, towns and cities, or school districts. If you receive questions from the public regarding public lands, please direct them to our office because that process has changed greatly from what it has been in the past 2 years because of a court hearing.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you. Lorraine, so when you say that we can only recoup our direct costs, that does not include any back taxes then?
It does not include back taxes. When those are forfeited,
Giving them up.
that starts a base for what we can put them on the market for. And that process itself has completely changed. When I talk about direct costs, I'm talking about if we have to go in and change locks. We are, like I said, had to go through an eviction process, so all of the court costs and direct costs to that, we can recoup that.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Is that the Tyler Hennepin result, all this?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So it's, I mean, it's not just Sherburne County, it's statewide.
Is there any other questions for Lorraine?
Yes, one question. And maybe this is something you could just bring up at the next time we meet. But seems to me that I remember when we discussed at some point last year that our election equipment is coming up on end of life
Yes.
at some point. And so I'd just like to get an idea of what the process is to replace those, or what the plan is, or, for the end of life of those.
Our office is currently working on putting that together, looking at what's available, what is certified to be available in Minnesota. We are looking at a 2026 end of life for the majority of our equipment. Don't get me wrong, our equipment is in really good shape, but technology is changing, security is changing. We want to make sure that we're on top of that. We have been carrying forward budget dollars to make sure that it's not a huge hit on any of our entities. But yes, that is part of our process this summer, is we'll be looking at all those pieces. And I'll be able to report to you and give you an estimate of what we're looking at, what different, we'll obviously have to go out for through the state and use their recommendations also. But yes, that will be forthcoming.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Hall, or Administrator Meslet?
Thanks. If you don't mind, just a couple more comments for the board that might lead to questions. Lorraine mentioned the ARPA funds. I would note that Dan has concluded the last report to the feds for Q4, or almost, getting very close.
Q4 it's done.
Q4, I know. That's
Yep.
good.
More reports come.
Yeah. But we will come back to you and give you kind of a postmortem on ARPA funds. So that we'll schedule sometime here in the next month or so. So Dan will come in and go through the buckets, because a couple of you have asked where do we spend the money, and Brad, I don't think you tracked it real close, so it'd be good for you to know. So we'll have that on as well. And the other thing I wanted to note is Lorraine did talk about investments. And this goes back to the reason why we think it's good to sit down the end of February and have some conversations with you. We've been fortunate that we can budget for revenue from investments, but there are two big ticket items that are kind of hanging out there for future board conversations. One is the possible improvement to the jail, and two is the possible construction of a new public works facility and a household hazardous waste facility. If we used in-house funds for that, which Kathy and I are working on some options for you, versus bonding, in other words, we used our savings account, more than likely that would very, very significantly reduce investment revenues in the future. So no good deed goes unpunished. No decision or action happens without an equal and opposite reaction. So if we go into a capital construction mode, we borrow funds, we have to pay back the bonds. If we use existing funds, it will reduce our investment income. So we count on that for revenue. So if we take that out of the revenue, you can see what it means for you. So all of these are interrelated, but when Lorraine flagged the investment income, I just want to know, currently that has been part of our conversation, which is, do we use some of those reserve funds, in other words, for capital construction. So you can see why it's important that we then go out and try to seek federal funds for the jail, for instance, or state funds. But at the end of the day, we're talking millions of dollars that would come off of your reserves, and therefore you would see less revenue on investments. So just a couple of notes.
And on that note also, because we start that budget process so early, as last year was a prime example, from what happened from June and July when we started the process to now, in the investment world, was pretty turned upside down for a lot of things. So we try to be on the conservative side and go with what we know we have for sure, and not try to forecast too far into the future. But yes, as Bruce said, that's why we also want the communication with the board, so we can kind of work with that also. Brenda works really hard on keeping our dollars working hard for us, so we want to continue that. So I appreciate your communication and working with us on that.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have any idea on where the bonding rate is at for government?
We do not.
Okay, so I know that there was a few years back where you could bond for like 1 point some percent. I'm sure that's not the case right now.
I have honestly not looked at that recently, so
Because that would determine a lot of decisions.
will.
at What that bonding rate would be at that time. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Hall?
Just quick clarification, Administrator Messalt, on the, wouldn't, you mentioned 2 capital projects, but one of them is the recycling project. Wouldn't that be eligible for SCORE funding?
Some of it, and the public works side could be eligible for advanced state aid, but then that comes at the cost of future road projects. So SCORE funding, I don't think will cover the entire cost of that. You know, so again, you're either going to defer programming that you use SCORE funds for building, or public works funds for, you know, roads, or you're going to borrow funds. So for instance, Fund 21 could be used for the HHW facility, but then Fund 21 is less, which means there's less investment income. Yeah. Yeah, there's some other pots of funding, but nothing is going to pay it all. So, and if you use SCORE funding for that, there'll be less for some of the other programs. So, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Danielowski?
for Commissioner Schumacher's sake, could you describe what Fund 21 is?
Yeah, Lorraine, you want to do it? Or?
do I want to take a shot at it?
Yeah.
Fund 21, it's solid waste. There are several different buckets within that. The majority of it is SCORE, which I'm not going to say this completely correctly, but it is funds that are collected from like tipping fees and different garbage company fees that we are required to hold in case that landfill fails. Because we would be the ones that would have to make sure that our water was safe and all those things. So that's why that always does show a fairly large balance in it. That is the core of our investments, because that is, we always hope, a long-term item. It also assists with our cash flow. It's separate from our zoning as far as the funds. There's separate government aid that we get through there. I believe it's SCORE funds that are also doing the septic system loans that we are doing also. So those monies are also going in and out and rotating. So that's kind of in a very brief nutshell. Dave Lucas would give you a much longer definition and much more detailed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, thank you. No, it was plenty, I got it.
Is that right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and it even goes back further. Many boards ago, a previous county board used those SCORE or Fund 21 funds. I don't know if they were the tipping fees or others, but they used them for essentially a local grant program to some of the townships and cities. And at the time, it was a neat idea, but ultimately the county attorney said, yeah, it's not legal. But you'll still hear in some meetings, the people are like, well, whatever happened to that grant program? We want to build a new town hall. And, you know, that was then, this is now. And so we just have to remember that those funds are specifically colored. Household hazardous waste fits really well. You have some discretion to borrow against it, but then repay it over time. But anything we do has consequences, yeah, so.
So we need a motion to approve the Auditor Treasurer's report.
So moved?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Hulls makes the motion, Commissioner Felber seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Moving on. Commissioner correspondence.
I'll go first.
Ooh,
Okay, so it's kind of a why not.
you were always last year.
I know. That's why I'm, it's
Jumps right in.
it's a new and exciting deal. So let's see, I know last meeting I didn't do this, so this month is, January, is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, Glaucoma Awareness Month, National Blood Donor Month, get out there and give if you can. It is also Poverty Awareness Month, and then International Holocaust Remembrance Day is January 27th. Those significant days. I went to the Emergency Transition Advisory Committee. We had a presentation on emergency setups for preparedness for nuclear plants. It was very interesting, and I've got a PowerPoint on that if anybody else wants to see it. Rural Action Caucus talked about federal priorities. I did not attend SCAT, but I have been able to review the minutes, so I'm kept up on what's happening with that. On the Emergency Transition Advisory Emerging Task Force, we had some more stuff about nuclear power and utilization. I went to the Big Lake Orac Big Lake Township joint meeting, where there's a lot of good information that came out about what everybody's up to. That was a good meeting. I think it was pretty well attended. For Micah, I did not get to. I tried to listen to that online for the most part, but I passed out twice, so I missed some of that. I'll get caught up on that next month. Approved minutes of that passed out from being ill, by the way.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, I did realize that after I said it.
Greg, I just want you to know the book came out. You know, the book of quotes. Yeah, it was coming out real quick there. So glad you corrected that.
Yeah. All right. So the Violent Offender Task Force is working on board elections and getting new personnel. The Park Advisory Board, we talked about a lot of things going on with the parks. There's going to be a walkthrough for companies at the barn at 2 Inlets on February 4th. That's probably one of the biggest things we've got going, because we do have to get that barn emptied, and we do have to get that stuff sold out of the barn. Listen to the NACO Health Steering Committee, and I think that's pretty much it on those things. One quick thing, shout out to Carrie Underwood for doing her bit in a cappella yesterday, because that was really, really fantastic. One other item on a serious thing that I'm thinking about, been thinking about the last few days for sure, is that with the change of administration, we are definitely going to be looking at increased emphasis on immigration enforcement, right? There are organizations, including the state of Minnesota to an extent, that are actually discussing not cooperating with that. But I think it's important to remember that Title 8 USC 1324A defines a variety of offenses. It's an offense for anybody to disregard the fact that an alien's in here. It's an offense. It is a federal felony to provide them with housing, shield them from detection, those kinds of things. It is a conspiracy, aiding and abetting if you're assisting in this stuff. So I'm not exactly sure looking at our policies, I didn't find anything that specifically addresses this. I think it's something that we should take a look at in some sort of a workshop down the line to make sure that our staff doesn't feel they are compelled by some state program or another to shield people from detection. And obviously my preference would be is that we make sure that people know that Sherburne County is in favor of federal enforcement of federal law.
Mhm.
That's all I got.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can I go next? I attended online, like many Americans, the inauguration yesterday. I found it very nice to see our U.S. Senator elbow to elbow with the Vice President at the ceremony. A lot of questions on that, and she did comment on WCCO regarding the process of how close together they were. I found that to be very nice. I also attended the SCAT meeting over the Sherburne County Association of Townships, to define that, the NACO Health Steering Committee, and the Resilient Counties Advisory Board. I found it very interesting, just learning and listening to even the problems that had started in Hawaii and have come back to the no insurance lava zone. Just out of some of the odd things that you learn about the insurance company business on that meeting. And then with that, moving forward, as the administrator said, next week I'll be with him and some of you down in St. Paul, and look forward to that training and going through the process with AMC. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Last week I met with the Fair Board. one of the issues, I already talked to Dan and Bruce about it, is they're wanting to do some work on the 4-H building to replace the floor there. They made a request based on the quotes they've received. Of course, our upcoming budgets are going to be pretty tight, so they're not going to get that full amount from us. So I asked Dan and Bruce to work with them to look for some grants that may fill that gap for them to be able to move forward. They're also they should be getting with Administrator Messel on we were going to help them fund a study, economic impact study, that will be a springboard for their strategic plan. We're offering them a 3-year lease based on them doing that strategic plan. Once it's completed, then we'll offer them a longer lease. But the strategic plan has to be complete. It has to be a comprehensive strategic plan. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into it. So if you hear, why are we only offering a 3-year lease to the fair? It's because it's contingent upon them doing this strategic plan, so we can figure out what we want it to be long term. Also met with the economic development with Commissioner Danielewski and myself, as we normally do at this time of the month, and it was continues to talk about one of the big issues continues to be discussed is housing and housing availability, specifically around workforce housing and around senior housing. I was glad to hear that was also a federal priority as well. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. And then had a brief meeting with Congressman Emmer's monthly call. Obviously, they were primarily focused last week on the inauguration, this week in the transition. So that was a relatively short meeting this month. And then other than that, I'm going to be traveling out of town tomorrow, and I look forward to walking along the Gulf of America.
Okay.
Yep. So Sandy, I do have one question, if I may.
Commissioner Felber.
The Fair Board sent us a while back a demographic analysis. That demographic analysis looked like it was just basically recopying standard demographic data from the state of Minnesota. There wasn't any actual survey that they did, right?
Yeah. That study has not been done yet. So
Okay.
that's their economic study. Would also include a survey of users. I can't think of the right word.
Attendees.
Attendees. Thank you.
And they also have memberships, so the members, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, we also have to remember that the fairgrounds, what the Fair Board does, is not just the fair itself. There
Yes.
are things that it's used for, throughout the year. In the winter, a lot of it is storage, but there are other things as well. So that should all be included in their strategic plan as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, did the Fair Board, I don't remember, did the state fair, when they raised their entry fee, was that before or after your meeting? Because the state.
The State Fair did that after the last Fair Board meeting, so State Fair, raised it to $20, Brad?
No, $220.
$220, yeah.
$220.
Yeah, to $20.
I was curious if they had a conversation on that or regarding that, but it was after, so. Moving forward.
Okay. Commissioner Danielewski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a NACO Rural Action Zoom meeting on the 8th of January and followed that up with the NACO CEWD meeting, which is what I sit on. It's for County Economic and Workforce Development. That's a subcommittee. And also attended the Big Lake Township meeting. Basically, most of the meeting was a reorganizational meeting for them. They elected their board chair will be Bruce Abel. Their vice chairman will be Mark Hedstrom. They appointed their treasurer, Ken Warnicki, appointed the deputy treasurer, Becky Guthrie, appointed their clerk, Brenda Kimberly Moss, and appointed the deputy clerk, Debbie Workman. And they did some other items of business too. And then on the 9th, I attended the AMC County Program Aid and Mandate Work Group down at AMC. I accompanied Bruce. And this is going to be the beginning discussions on how do we look at county program aid, the formula, does it need to be updated? So this is going to be probably a process that's going to continue to have these discussions, continuing to look at the mandates that impact us on all of our budgets as well throughout the state. So stay tuned for more information on that one as it unfolds. Also zoomed into a CMRP, Central Mississippi River Partnership bylaws meeting, looking at our bylaws as we're getting ready to transition to a nonprofit. And then that evening was able to attend the Options Christmas party in Big Lake. On the 14th, I attended the Big Lake Share Big meeting, which is basically, it's at the school. It has to do with the McKinney-Vento Act in regards to homelessness of youth and making sure that the school stays connected to whatever their circumstances are. If they're experiencing homelessness, that they stay connected to the school and able to get them to graduation. Also, on the 15th, then I attended the SEP Coalition meeting. And then that evening, the SCAT meeting. I also was able to attend the same NACO Resilient Zoom meeting that Brad referred to. And then on the 16th, the EDA meeting that Andrew has already mentioned. And I continue to be really excited as we work through the processes of how we're going to make an impact on the housing needs here in our county, both with workforce and our elderly and pretty much across the board. We have really good people around that table. We also did elect our, well, I shouldn't say new. We pretty much kept the slate of our leadership group, chairman, vice chair, all intact. I think they kind of felt like it was, what would you say? It was kind of like no options. You were just.
You were voluntold.
You were voluntold that was what you're going to do again?
We did get our new executive director.
Yes, we did get we elected Brian Fleming as our new executive director as well. So anyways, moving on then, also attended that day the AMC Leadership Essential meeting. That was via Zoom. Lots of really good information. Also attended the NACO Regional Central meeting via Zoom, and then attended the Big Lake Joint Community meeting that Greg referred to. That is always a really good meeting. The school comes, the Orac Township is there, Big Lake Township there is there, City of Big Lake is there. So we can, and the county, and we're all communicating as to what has happened and what is coming, and what do we all need to be aware of, so we can work together to make it all work. It kind of takes a village. In my thought process. And then also on the 17th, attended the Big Lake SUP meeting, which is also the substance use prevention meeting that the school district has a lot of really good involvement with, a lot of great youth participation as well. And I think that was pretty much it. If I missed anything, I apologize.
Thank you. And on a lighter note, today is Squirrel Appreciation Day. Squirrels Appreciation Day. So for you people that didn't know that,
I did not know
Squirrel
that.
Appreciation Day. I went to the MICA board meeting on the 8th. The biggest thing that came out of that is Anoka and Wright County are now members. And we appointed a new executive director, that Nathan Jessen is his name. Did I say that right, Bruce?
I think so, yeah.
He's from he came from background Minnesota League of Cities. He's got a master's degree in public services, and he's been on the House Tax Committee for years. So his background and his work ethic, I think, is going to be great. At the request of the San Diego Town Board, I was present at their meeting in regards to, they had a full house, in regards to an IUP, an amendment that they're going to be bringing before the Planning Commission here in February. Attended the Soil and Water Conservation District. Swung in and spoke at the managers meeting Bruce has monthly. Stopped and introduced myself at the Parks and Trails Committee. was at the Sub-Coalition for about a half an hour online. I tried to log on to the NACO Health Board meeting as I was driving, but I got kicked out. So IT didn't work for me there. The SCAP meeting we've already talked about. I attended the leadership training with Danielowski, Commissioner Danielowski, in regards to that. The NACO Resilient Counties Advisory. The thing I found out, I think a few of us were on that, the Paradise Fire in California, if you remember that, burned that whole town. They, after 6 years, are not even 50% rebuilt. They still are fighting with trying to get electricity, gas, and water, and roads reconstructed. It's amazing. So you put that in comparison, the size of that town to what burned in LA in the last few weeks, that's an undertaking that is enormous. I can't even imagine that. Then the Planning Commission on the 116, imagine this room filled with people in regards to the main issue is the gravel pit that we will all be addressing. That's an enormous project. I think the Planning Commission, Don was there, I think everyone did well. The attendees, it was a lot of stuff brought out in that meeting, I think was great. But it is an enormous project that's gonna take up 700 or 100 acres in the middle of my district in Haven Township. So that will be on our plate coming forward. So that's about all I had.
Mr. Chair, I have one addition to my update. I forgot to mention that Big Lake Township did approve setting the gopher bounty for 2025 at $3 per pair.
$3.
Yes, so that's
Price
just
has
that.
gone up.
Yeah.
I think I remember when I was a kid, it was 25 cents.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 cents, I don't remember.
You could get a soda for,
Yeah, there's
you
nothing.
could get a soda for 10 cents then, so.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean,
There's nothing better than having someone bring in gopher feet in a jar to a township board meeting and
Yep.
setting them on the counter.
Yep.
So here you go.
and you got to count 'em.
Exchange that for money. If
Isn't that
you've
the
never
clerk-
experienced that, that is quite an experience.
That's the clerk's job to count the feet. then, too,
Yes,
isn't it? Yeah.
and it usually doesn't happen right at the board table.
Right,
So
right.
And I do have to say, there is an enterprising young man from Big Lake that started his business last summer. And he just was overwhelmed with people that were reaching out to him to come and trap their gophers. And I think he took advantage of this gopher feed turn-in as well. So up and coming entrepreneur.
Well, we do set the beaver bounty too, so. Things counties get to do.
Okay.
do we want to, we'll recess the regular board meeting and open the community health board? Do we want to break before that?
Your choice. I think we're pretty much on time, so you can either pound right through
Break,
the
or you wanna
community
wait
health
till
board,
community-
or you can take a break now.
Keep going? Okay.
Yep.
All right, we'll move on then. We'll open the community health board meeting.
Okay.
I think we need to approve the minutes.
We do. I will motion that we approve the minutes.
Board Chair,
Agenda, I'm sorry.
can we approve the agenda before we approve the minutes?
I meant to say agenda, but I said something else. So, yeah, I would motion that we approve the regular meeting agenda for the Community Health Board meeting.
We have a
I'll
motion.
second.
Commissioner Danielowski seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Agenda's approved. We need a motion to approve the minutes.
Now I will motion that we approve the Community Health Board minutes from November 19th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Felber and a second by Commissioner Hulls. All those in favor?
Oh, I'll abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Meetings are approved. And now, 10.2, receive the Community Health Administrator's bi-monthly update. Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Board of Commissioners, and welcome Commissioner Schumacher to the Community Health Board.
Thank you.
So I don't have a real long update today, but a few items. I thought I would just kind of start with a little quick overview of the statute that does govern the local public health, governmental public health here in Sherburne County. It's the Local Public Health Act, Minnesota Statute 145A. And as you read this, you might notice that it's not very clinical when you think about health, and that is because our main priorities are really the promote, protect, and prevent strategies. So we don't look at diseases as far as diagnosis and treatment, but we really look at early on how do we prevent and keep a community healthy. A little bit about the State Community Health Services Advisory Committee. So both Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Schumacher, it sounds like you've been delegated to serve on this committee. It is unique in Minnesota that we get a chance to participate at least 4 times a year with the Department of Health to really talk about what local impacts there are when we're talking about health policies and structure for the Minnesota Department of Health as we look at developing procedures and policies for the work that we do. You know, policy recommendation, development, and funding are certainly high priority conversations. We support a lot of different work groups for specialty or specific topics that we need experts involved in. And then we really look to understand the big scope of health and how that impacts many sectors at the local level. We do have some meetings coming up, so early next month, February 6th. This is not at our typical Wilder Foundation location. It is in St. Paul at the Minnesota Department of Health, so if you have not had the opportunity to visit there, it might be a nice time for you to do that. Meetings are also virtual, so you can participate either way. And then also wanted to call your attention, there is a new member orientation scheduled in April, and that is for certainly for new folks coming on, but can be for commissioners who just want to learn a little bit more about SHAC and how that committee has been functioning over the years. And then I can also provide the slides so you can respond via link, or you could contact me if you want assistance to do that. At each board meeting, I've talked just a little bit about these foundational public health responsibilities. This has been kind of the space that Minnesota's been moving into since 2019, believe it or not. And so we just look at this as there's some foundational areas across the top which are more topical, and then the foundational capabilities across the bottom are more cross-cutting skills. And we use this to say that, you know, we really want to be able to provide population health services across the state, you know, regardless of where you live, what your zip code is, or who you are. And its overall goal is to really improve healthcare and health access for everyone. I've also been trying to highlight some of those different capabilities or areas each meeting. So today, just a bit about organizational competencies. So something that we should be doing across all of our programs, looking at our leadership and governance, ensuring information technology services. So thinking about AI conversation that you just had and how does that impact us in local public health. Really focusing some time and efforts on workforce development and ensuring human resources. Financial management, contracting, procurement, those are also all foundational areas in which we divide some time. And then the legal services and analysis, in which we're grateful for our partnership here with our legal services here. It's also that time of year for annual reporting. So I just did a few snips of kind of what annual reporting looks like for public health. On the left is the REDCap system, and that's where we do most of our reporting for the Department of Health. And we do that across our division. So the leadership, the fiscal staff, and program experts help to ensure we have our reporting in on time. It looks like something in the middle, a variety of areas. So we not only report fiscally on what we're doing, but also on the work that we've done and goals that we've reached or have not reached. And then certainly the financial expenditures and staffing makeup. Some priorities for 2025 that we've already identified, certainly expanding the alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs prevention work with the addition of the cannabis funds and also some opioid funds. We've really been able to expand that work in that prevention scope. Also this year, we will be completing our community health improvement plan for the next 3 years. That's due by July 1st of 2025. And we've been actively working through the assessment period since spring of 2024. And then lastly, just really expanding our partnerships in local public health as we talk about what health and all policies could look like, and that's really just asking questions about projects and policies. Are there impacts to health? And if there are, is the risk of that benefiting the project overall? So really just kind of a simple thing for a really complex maybe term. So hopefully having some more conversations about that in 2025. We also had a suggestion a while back about some district data books, and a commissioner or two might have said that that might be helpful for people to really kind of dive deep into what some of that data looks like based on your districts. So I'm very grateful to our AmeriCorps member, Annika Peterson. She's kind of taken on this project and really working on it. We're hoping to have this to you pretty soon, but we're using two data sources, so Minnesota Compass and then the Health Trends Across Communities, HTAC. So looking a little bit about kind of our households and what our demographics look like, and then also a little dive into some of the disease processes that HTAC has been monitoring. And they do that by a variety of different factors. And that has been growing. I think there are about 35 right now, but there are 45, 50 that are still on their radar that they really want to prioritize. So that is a work in progress. I believe you've talked a little bit about some of these other committees, but just wanted to invite you, if you want to attend any of these meetings coming up, the SUPS Coalition meetings, we do have Commissioner Danielowski who attends, but it is open to other folks if you're interested in learning more. The First Steps Joint Powers Board, we will be meeting here in February, and that's really about that 4-county collaboration in which we partner to deliver home visiting services. And then as we work on mental health, I know mental health has been a priority for the county for some time, but Stronger Together Inspiring Resilience, or STIR, is also another committee who really has some really great cross-sector representation and community members who are committed to really talking about resiliency and mental health for Sherburne County. So that's available virtually or in person. And then also just to continue to invite you, if there are any questions you have for public health staff, you have ideas or concerns or want to do a shadow visit or participate in any of our programming, you're certainly welcome to do that. And I know that, there are designees, but all are welcome, so just let me know. And I wanted to leave with this. We have been meeting with a lot of different folks this last year, and sometimes a light bulb moment kind of happens where public health might mean something to me, but I've learned that it has meant something to somebody else in a different way. So our public health division is really about the folks that work in public health. So there's a few pictures from some of our happenings over the past few years. And mind you, it's also some other public health people. These are not all public health division employees. But so the division is certainly the employees that help carry out the activities of public health. But oftentimes when we're saying public health or the impact of public health, it's really that broad prospect that we're looking at. So the community's health, the public's health, or population's health. So when we look at that, we're really talking about all the folks that live here in Sherburne County. If you work here, if you travel here, if you have recreation here, so any person that visits or lives here in Sherburne County. So hopefully that's a clarity. Maybe that hasn't been an issue for you, but we've learned that some have said, oh my gosh, when you said public health, we thought you meant you and your team. And it really hasn't been about that. It's been the public's health. So with that, that's the end of my update today. Are there any questions or comments?
I wouldn't mind attending the virtual meeting on the April 2nd. So if you could send me some information, I'd appreciate it.
Times 2.
Perfect, thank you.
And 3, Mr. Chair, Nicole, can you, will you be sending us your slide presentation?
I sure will.
With all that information, and I'd be interested in attending the same one, so.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Nicole? No. I said it behind this dais before that I think public health needs to rise to the top because I think every decision we still make, we can tie it back to public health in some aspect. And the public health for policies for all, I think, is in whatever we decide or whatever policies we make. Just I want everyone to be aware that we need to look at it from a public health eye, because I think a healthy population in the long run, it's not instant gratification that it's going to save the county money, but in, long after we're gone, if we have a healthy population, I think it'll save the money in the long run for the county. So with that, anybody else got any other comments?
I see it from a different lens, Mr. Chairman. I see it from the lens of a housed community is the foundation of public health.
That's part of it.
If you're housed, your public health is already going to be
That has a part of it.
exponentially moved forward, because we can check off a lot of boxes when people are adequately housed, then we can work on their public health.
Speaking from a realtor.
Of course, it always comes from that perspective. Let's not hide the truth, right? I got it, but a housed community is a healthy community.
Yeah,
Anybody
Mr.
else have
Chair.
any comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to Brad's point, the foundation, that's the start, the foundation. Everything else then, we still need to work on, because you want to make sure that that house is a healthy house as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think
So it
Commissioner
all
Knowles
ties
mentioned that
together.
with the housing and the EDA and all that. So I think that's all good. Anyone else?
I was just going to say, even the hospitals have recognized that. That's why we have a lot of working meetings with the hospital. You have Center Care that is addressing that housing issue just for the very same reasons. And a lot of other, like Fairview and a lot of other big health organizations recognize that as well.
Anyone have anything else? Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
I look for a motion to close the,
Can we have a motion to accept her report?
oh, yes. Can we have a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Report accepted. Now, can I have a motion to adjourn the health board meeting?
Just adjourn it.
Just adjourn it. Past Chair, I can just adjourn this?
Yep.
Okay.
You can hit the gavel,
Greg says,
everything if you want.
I can beat on the table if I want? Okay. Health meeting closed. Now we'll take a 5-minute break. 10.
Let's go with 10.
You guys want to do workshop here, or you want to